has never left Louis' cock uncummed.
Fear. Oh, no, I was wondering what was gonna get said right after I turned on the camera, and the answer was, "This is the One Piece episode."
Let's go! I finally got them to watch all.
Yeah, we got caught up.
I feel like it's so far away. Hold on. I don't know. I'm just. No, it's good. There we go. That's fine. Keep talking. I'm just. Keep talking now.
Let them come.
Let them come.
Let them come.
Are you FaceTiming someone?
No, oh my
He's on
god, it
Twitch.
opened a Twitch stream. Like, whose Twitch stream is this?
So unprofessional.
Yes, Fear. We're talking about Succession. And potentially other things. I don't know. We haven't really...
You guys open up with the MODOK talk to get that out of the way.
Yeah, we want...
Oh,
Let's talk about Antman and the...
Ant-Man and the Wasp. MODOK Mania.
MODOK Mania. We're primarily... We wanted to do the final Succession talk, but first let's talk about a movie the both of us unfortunately watched.
Well, we were playing D&D.
Yes.
Yeah, we... Listen, if you're not in a D&D session with our friend group, it's slim pickings what you're going to do. There's usually like 2 people who are in the session. And in that case, Coleman and I were those people.
And I was... So, when Antman and the Wasp Quantumania came out, I almost saw that movie in the movie theaters, but I'm very glad I didn't. I don't know about you, I thought it was just going to be like normal, like Black Widow kind of like mid, kind of boring Marvel movie. Kirk,
No.
you gotta understand, it was bad.
It's bad. The worst of it was, we joked about it. We were like, we should watch Quantumania. But then we were playing video games, and we talked about Disco Elysium, and I was like, oh, you should try Disco Elysium, Coleman. You should be like the first hour. That could be a fun thing for us to do while we're here. And he was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. And I was like, what do you want to do then? And he went,
okay, that was not... Don't make it look like we were deciding between...
That is exactly what happened! You said no to Disco Elysium. I then asked, what do you want to do? And he said...
Unrelated!
He said Quantumania.
Unrelated. You gotta understand. When I bit, I bit. We commit. We commit. I also didn't. I thought I was like, okay. In the past, when my expectations for a Marvel movie are like way low.
Subterranean.
Subterranean. It exceeds them. That's how I felt about Thor. That's how I felt about Doctor Strange. That's not how I felt about this movie.
It's bad,
bro. I don't even know what Ant-Man's arc with his daughter was supposed to be. They were clearly trying to do an arc with them, and I really don't.
Because they couldn't decide which one of them was the fuck up of the movie.
Yeah, it was. They were making fun of Ant-Man because you wrote a book, which already what?
But then they're making fun of her because it's like her fault that they're in the quantum realm.
I guess, but they don't ever really say that it's her fault they're in the quantum realm.
They don't.
Nobody ever directly.
But she says it, and then no one else.
It's just so weird, and she's a lot of the performances are awful or very phoned in.
Yeah,
like
wasn't the girl that played Cass like Paul Rudd's actual daughter?
No.
She's Catherine Newton, I think is her name,
Yeah.
and she's like decently well established. I've not really liked her in anything yet. She was in Detective. No, she was in Detective.
She had her in this perfect movie.
She had the worst lines, and they gave her the worst lines, and she delivered them badly.
And disregarding all of the controversy around Jonathan Majors, his performance isn't that good.
Yeah,
and listen, it is my personal feelings towards the man clouded that maybe, but I was told before this movie that he was the highlight. He's fine.
MODOK is the highlight.
MODOK
is the highlight because it's the only part that's treated like a joke
Yeah.
when the whole movie is actually a big joke.
Yeah, like, if anything, like, him trying to be like this Shakespearean, like, I was distraught and I'm acting. It's
Yeah,
like, it doesn't
that's how
even...
Kang comes across.
Yeah, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Which is like...
I think the knowledge that also this is like a bad person.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it... it definitely affects it.
But even then, like,
but I still
everything I've heard about Kang has made me be like, I don't care about this
guy.
And from the sound of it, it doesn't sound like his performance
I'm
elevates
not
that.
the kind of person to say, like, this person is bad, therefore their acting is bad. I'm actually someone who's pretty good about being like, man, I hate this person, but that performance was good. Like, I can sometimes, like,
You can separate the artist.
Yeah, but still not praise them enough.
Yeah. You can still hate the artist, but love the art that they were adjacent to.
Yeah. I hated that movie.
I think you hated it a little more than I did. If I'd been watching it with somebody who liked it, I might have been a little more positive on it, but I still would not have
I
said
gave it a 2 out of 10. It's hovering. It's closer to a 1. I think you gave it a 2 out of 10. It's closer to a 3.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. It was maybe it was in the okay, we watched the Incredible Hulk last year.
Yeah.
I think this movie's worse than the Incredible Hulk.
Yes,
and the Incredible Hulk is already at the bottom tier of MCU movies. But yeah.
They did it.
Quantumania.
Joe back.
The movie was 2 hours long. We checked the time twice during it. First time we were half an hour in. Second time we were an hour in. Both times less time had passed than we expected, but also more time had passed than we expected, but less than what it felt like.
Yeah.
It
felt like we had been 10 years of watching.
It's so
but that we hadn't earned feeling like it was that long.
No.
We were like, this feels like it was taking forever.
I feel like it was written by some Rick and Morty writers. I feel like it had the depth of plot of a Rick and Morty episode. I feel like you could do that same story in 30 minutes.
It sounds like a Rick and Morty plot.
Jeff Loveness is one of the better Rick and Morty writers. So.
Morty, we got short to the quantum realm. We have to get out of here.
There's a group of rebel characters, and that's where all the Rick and Morty humor gets funneled to. You can very distinctly see which characters got to be the funny ones, and which characters just delivered exposition, or Kang. The scene where Michelle Pfeiffer her character, this is like a flashback, and she's narrating the exposition of how she met Kang and how she learned he was a villain, and he does such a piss poor job of trying to convince her he isn't evil. Basically, she sees all his memories, and she's like, what are you gonna do when you get out? And he, long dramatic pause, stands up. Win. It's like, dude, you could have said anything.
You could have lied. You could have you're being an ancient wizard is trying to make me seem bad.
Right? He could have said anything, but he was so and she also asked him what are you or who are you, and he's like, who I've had to be. It's like, dude, if you're trying, I thought he was gonna bring the movie up for me when it was dragging in that first act. He did not. He didn't do anything to help.
What worked about Thanos was that after every movie, and this is even kind of lazy writing, but after every movie in the phase 1 through 3, or the important ones, you'd see they'd have a big threat, they just barely went, and at the end Thanos is they thought that was bad. Wait till I show up. And then he keeps doing that, and it's whatever.
Well,
with Kang, the problem is that every time we've seen him, especially with this movie, spoiler for Quantumania, he loses.
I think
I'm not intimidated. He loses in this
to
movie.
ants.
Ant-Man beats him. Ant-Man wins.
This is like when Darkseid shows up in Justice League and then loses to some guy.
Okay, we'll describe. So they've got the whole family down there, and they don't know what to do with them. So Michael Douglas gets a subplot late in the movie about the ants. You went to the bathroom, and Michael Douglas just starts giving this. He shows up and just starts giving this non-sex ants exposition about how the ants followed them into the quantum realm and then got stuck in a time-space hole and built a super ant society over hundreds of thousands of years.
And he goes, I know socialism's a charged word nowadays, but... And then he jokes about how it's so
but we could all learn a thing or two from those ants.
I don't think there's a single good joke in the movie.
Real dialogue.
I think MODOK is unintentionally hilarious, but I don't...
MODOK has a death scene. And he's like, at least I died in Avenger. That's what I'm like, MODOK was also, so the secret society of ants storms the city, overwhelms Kang. Kang is shielding the ants off, and then MODOK flies in from behind him saying, my name is Darren, and I am not a dick! And he crashes into Kang's shield and breaks it, and then Kang gets swarmed by the ants.
What the fuck?
sounds funny.
Guys, Age of Kang, or
Kang versus over.
Kang versus...
Jover.
It's so joke.
I think...
It's so bad.
Well, there's a lot of things. I think the issue with Kang, like in isolation, I think the issue with Kang is that like they immediately are like, this guy is the biggest deal ever, and like they kind of did that with Thanos, but at the same time, like Thanos was just off in his own corner. Like we didn't know anything about him, and then when he showed up, he immediately proved why he was a big deal because he killed Loki and then beat Hulk's ass, but he also showed that he wasn't invincible and that he had an actual like ego
That's
about
why
him.
Infinity War is great.
Yeah.
You know, you've heard this a billion times. Infinity War works because Thanos works.
Yeah.
And I just
Even if his plan is
Kang is not working for me because every time Kang shows up, he's just like, in the next one, I'm gonna be.
Yeah, it's not just what you said that the movie is trying to hype Kang up as the next big bad. It's that Kang is hyping other versions of himself up. Like, remember in Loki how he was like, all the other Kangs are worse than me and that's how I'm controlling the timeline?
Yeah.
Ant-Man Kang does the exact same shit.
It's like if your players...
It's like so he has one bit and he just keeps
he has
doing
one
it.
bit and it's, you should be scared of the other, more evil versions of me.
It's like if your players in your D&D game beat the BBEG early and you're just so vitriolically mad at them for their stroke of luck that you end the session with the teaser being like, well, now there's a billion of him and they're all more powerful and they're coming for you because you beat my villain with ants on a
the post-credit scene of all the Jonathan Majors Kangs popping off is still in it. They didn't remove it for Disney Plus.
Because they haven't officially fired it.
They haven't officially fired it.
Well, because I think like they are contractually required to like use him in like one more movie.
It is also funny how little sense the Kangs popping off in the stadium actually makes in context.
It's just people walking.
Not even just that. Most of the scene is a group of 3 different Kangs being like.
I thought that scene like took place in that scene of all the Jonathan Majors in the arena is like the end credits scene.
It's the post-credits scene.
I thought that happened like in the middle of the movie, and like the joke was that like there's like a billion Kangs, so you can't get rid of. If you get rid of one, just another one's gonna take the place.
No, it's one for the entire movie until the end, where it's like, well,
the post-credit. The 3 of them are like, the other Kang got defeated by Ant-Man. We need to gather the Council of Kangs, and it's very serious. And then you cut into the council room, and instead of, discussing or planning, as you would expect a hyper-intelligent villain like this to do, all the Kangs are just popping off like it's a fucking Marvel movie and they're in the audience. It doesn't make any sense. It's just there so the audience can cheer too.
The only...
I just love that if out of context.
It's one thing
to react to that, like it's just people walking. In my adult life, I've never popped off like that towards something, unless that thing was Succession.
Let's go transition. We're done talking about Ant-Man. That was a better transition than most we've done.
Hang on, wait. Speaking of Kang the Conqueror,
damn it.
you know who else conquered things? Todd?
Spoilers for season 4.
Does Zorro start sucking with his dick?
God damn it.
Episode 3.
Really? I got that far. I was on Skypea when I stopped, but they still weren't like sexually intimate.
Spoilers for season 4 of Succession. Spoilers for season 4 of Succession.
We already
they talk about One Piece in season 4 of Succession.
I'm not talking about this anymore.
I'm talking about One Piece.
Honk
Shoe. We started recording
and
my camera ran us.
Season 4 of Succession, spoilers. Do not watch this if you have not caught up.
With the best season of TV
I'd agree.
that has ever been made.
I'd agree with
the best season of the best show.
It's incredible. We're the millionth white guys to say this.
Yeah, true.
Succession's good.
True. It's up there with the greats.
Video over.
Yeah, video over. Anyway, back to MODOK. No, who?
Let's start. Do you want to start back with the Connor's
wedding? Yeah.
Because like you were saying, like how like how it slowly dawned on you throughout the episode, like with everyone you were watching with, like slowly throughout the episode, like, oh, he's actually gone.
Yeah, and it's just like it's the best written episode of the show, probably. Just like the way
everyone has their own grieving period process,
and the way it plays out in real time.
Yeah,
because I think
it's also probably the best shot of the episode of the show.
It captures
because like it wasn't done in like kind of like how they do it in Birdman, where it's like
they filmed
multiple one-ers that they then cut together to make it seem coherent.
Yeah, well, they filmed it on one take and then used the one-er where it was needed.
Yeah.
But then cutting around with some other alternate takes that weren't one-ers.
Yeah.
What's incredible about it is I think it just captures like the manic, scary nature of like learning that a loved one has passed, like as it's happening.
Yeah.
You know, like where it's not like you've had time to prepare and be like, hey, you know, I've thought about how I'm going to tell you this. Like they're gone. It's just like what it is when it's like.
Oh,
I don't know.
You're so
one minute you're doing something else. The next minute, oh, this person's gone.
The feeling of like, do you want to say your last words to them? Because we don't know.
The way that it happens off screen just does so much to put you in their shoes. Like 1 second we're doing the normal. You said before the camera turned off, to borrow your word, that you were expecting that the season was building towards like.
You thought it was going to be Logan's arc, and
Yeah.
the first two episodes don't discourage that idea because it focuses heavily on Logan on his own and the rest of the kids together.
And then suddenly during the middle of that, they just get that call.
Because we finally start seeing things from Logan, like Logan.
We finally get Logan's point of view.
Yeah, we rarely get his point of view. If Succession was written like Game of Thrones, the books are written, I don't think Logan would be a POV character.
And not until like maybe this book, and he would only get 2 chapters.
Yeah, but like the scene with him and Colin, I think is really awesome.
One,
where
it's really revealing.
Yeah, where he just like learn, where he talks.
That
about
was the episode that made us like suspect that a Logan death was coming up.
I thought he would die. I just didn't think
this soon.
Yeah, I thought if he was gonna die, it would be like near the finale.
Yeah, like episode 8.
But no, it.
And it would be like, and like it would honestly probably be like used to less to like make like tragedy and more to be like, okay, now we're ratcheting up the tension, which they did do.
Which is what they did, but that's
but what's interesting is I don't even like this isn't even every character's best season. I don't think, but it is just overall I think the best season.
It's just the most.
Shiv and Roman, it is their best season. For sure.
Is it Tom's best season too? It's hard to say. It's hard.
Season 3 is a really
season
good
3 is a really good Tom season. This season, like this season, the first 2 episodes and the last 3 episodes are his.
It's in the middle, like from Logan's death to and then his house party is kind of like, but then like that area. Is,
I think that's one thing this season does really well is it really gives everyone their time to shine.
Yeah, even characters that we regard as like background.
Yeah, characters like Carl that I
loved,
who I couldn't have really told you the name of before this season.
Yeah, before this season, I just viewed Carl as Frank, but more of a coward.
And then by the end of this season, when an episode didn't have Carl, I was like, "Where's Carl?
What's Carl doing right now?
What's Carl do?" His fucking roast of Tom in episode 4?
Yeah, like where they talk about
big nepo fuckers,
which is ironic considering what happens.
Yeah.
I think there's
married
one
to the
character
boss's daughter, and she doesn't even like you.
I think Greg had a weaker season, and I think Greg gets a weaker season every season of the show.
I think
season 1 is Greg's best.
I would argue that season 2 is Greg's.
Season 2 is great, but I just think like season 1 is peak like.
I think
he's still the everyman in season 1. He's still us, the audience.
Yeah.
So he's utilized a lot, whereas like the idea.
Obviously his actual like not peak in terms like his valley, but like his peak in terms of the show is him saying "fuck Greenpeace."
I think.
But I'd be shocked if Nicholas Braun gets an Emmy nomination. I don't know where, because you have to submit an episode. Yeah. I'm like, what? I guess America decides.
That would be.
But there's so many other.
That's his best.
First of all, if you're going to submit, I think usually it's about 3 Succession actors end up in the supporting category. It's got to be Matthew McFadden, Alexander Skarsgård and Alan Ruck.
Yeah.
Connor had his best season yet.
Yeah. Oh my God. We talked about episode 2 already.
I saw a thing recently.
We've talked about the first.
Alan Ruck asked them to kill off Connor in season 2 because he liked doing the show, but he was like, I'm a little sad that I don't get to do anything in the show, and it's like true.
Yeah.
Like Connor is such an afterthought.
And then they turn that in, and then they put They put that into the show itself.
Connor's wedding.
Where there's this idea that
like Connor's wedding in like a more subtextual sense of Connor's wedding is the least important thing happening in Connor's wedding, but also they literally put it into the text by having Connor say, I mean, I know you guys never liked me. I know
Dad never liked me.
I know Dad never liked me. I know you guys never liked me.
It's like growing up in this family, I learned to live without love. You know?
Yeah. Whereas all of you are love sponges.
Yeah, and like that's what's brilliant about this season is I think the whole idea of it, now that we know kind of what it was building to, was like this idea that like the closer the siblings are to the business, the worse their lives are. And that's why like Kendall and Shiv
are and the worse people they become.
Kendall and Shiv are the worst at the end because they both are like they had it and then they lost it.
Roman episode 9 kind of has that.
Roman's like free of it. He's like, oh, I didn't really want this, and now I don't have to even worry about it anymore.
And he's never really wanted.
And then there's
it's kind of just been the one thing he's been semi-decent at, and so he's kind of felt like he needed to do it to get his dad love.
And then there's this realization with Connor where it's like, oh, we've made fun of him. You know, we don't take him seriously. End of the day, he's gonna have had the most happy life.
He has a wife that you could charitably say loves him.
They understand what their relationship is. Both of them.
The arc of them is
they don't have any delusions about their marriage.
No.
Yeah.
They know what it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like season 4, the arc for them was coming to understand what the
actually understanding each other, as opposed to being like, so yeah, you're on board with this, right? And she's like.
Mm-hmm. Kieran Culkin was interviewed recently, a little before the season, and he was like, "Who's the most, the evil character in the show?" And he's like, "I think it's Connor, because he keeps this like his wife in like a cage, and he like puts her on a pedestal or something." But Willa's actor came out and was like, "I disagree with that interpretation. I think, despite all like the perceived flaws, that they have a very functional relationship in that they both know what."
They know what they're getting out of it, and they're honest about it.
You know that it's a good show and that these actors.
And hell, like how many people in the real world have like marriages and relationships that are just purely out of convenience
and don't acknowledge it. I mean, Tom and Shiv,
like
they come close.
They once might have loved each other, or at least Tom once loved Shiv, but. Like their marriage now is complete.
Honestly, their whole thing this season works great as a foil for Connor and Willa because Connor and Willa realize what their marriage is and make it work and become comfortable with it. Tom and Shiv hash things out. They hash out a lot this season, and they still come out of it just as
broken as they went
because it's the first time at the end. Where the power dynamic has flipped.
Yeah.
Where Tom is the one with all the power.
Tom holds all the cards in terms of and of course that's not to say that Tom doesn't have cards that he's held over Shiv because of the obvious. But in terms of their societal standings, it's always been you step one foot out of line and I can fucking get you.
Yeah.
And this is someone who told him point blank, I don't love you.
But you love me.
And that it's this relationship will always exist as it is because she holds that power over him.
Yeah.
But then now it's
now he has the power,
and it's still just equally fucked.
Yeah.
It is. Theirs is the if there was a protagonist this season, it would be Tom and Shiv together. I don't know.
I feel like there's probably a word for this of a
do-rags.
No, I'm thinking more specifically a central relationship in a show, in a story that is maybe one of those characters isn't the protagonist on their own, but the two together, the relationship is core to really this season.
I will say though, like even on her own, like I think, well, for one thing, Sarah Snook obviously is winning the Emmy. I think she could, if she wanted to, apply for leading actress.
She is going to.
She is doing lead.
And I feel like she has a chance.
The 3 main siblings are all going for lead.
That's what
they have, and I
big
think
about this season.
Kieran would dominate supporting if you.
Kieran would dominate,
but I think it's
really
less
good.
like.
Well, now Matthew McFadden.
Honestly, if they flipped it and Tom was trying for it, or Matthew McFadden was trying for it, he would not have a chance. But I think it would be interesting, and Kieran would totally win.
You know who else is trying for leading? Brian Cox.
Even though he's only in like 3 episodes.
He's in 2.5 episodes. What was I going to say? I hate losing my train of thought. Keep going.
Just like their power dynamics completely reversed, and comparing that to Willa and Connor's relationship that is totally totally transparent about what it is they both want out of it, and regardless of whether or not that is healthy or even loving, it's honest.
You want to know how to read this show? So I've always been a proponent of this boy. I thought
were the big Kendall's gonna win.
I was a Kendall truther.
Watching.
I texted my friends after episode 9 and said I think it could be Tom.
Really?
And they said I have the receipts. I have the receipts. And they called me an idiot. They were like, "You're dreaming." And then one of them apologized, and the other was like, "Well, actually, love you both." They're not gonna watch this. My read of it was this. I'm honestly thinking of writing an essay.
You should. You honestly should.
I've thought so much about it.
You honestly should.
I think the point of the show is like, it's this mixture of like who is
It's King Lear combined with Macbeth.
It's like who is doing right by Logan, and like who is like fulfilling that sort of legacy. And I think there is a lot to argue that Kendall wants to step out.
And Logan probably wanted him to too.
My theory's always been that Logan always wanted it to be Kendall. Regardless, I think what's interesting and what made me say Tom was episode 1, and I'll always say this, I always keep saying this, is the reason Kendall loses the job as CEO. He almost has it, but Logan gives him an ultimatum. It's like, hey, I have my birthday party, you gotta finish this deal.
That's episode
and
1.
And he tells him, the whole show, and he says, you gotta choose which one to come to, and he says, it's just priorities. Kendall goes to the party, Logan looks mad, fires him, makes him not CEO anymore, like removes that chance and says, I'm gonna wait. And what you learn from there is that what Logan wants is a CEO who will choose the business over the family. And why I said Tom might have a chance was in episode 9, Tom is the only one who doesn't go to the funeral because he's got to work.
Damn. Fuck.
That's a good one.
That's a good.
He told me about that already, and it is good.
That's a really I even like up until Matthias was speaking to Tom and telling him.
Matthias Madsen.
You almost said Madsen, and then your brain just like pivoted to another name.
Up until Madsen was having dinner with Tom and being like, "So I'm looking for an American CEO," and I'm like, "It's gonna be Tom."
Yeah.
I was still convinced, like, okay, he might be like a bootlicker, but I think he's out of the game in terms of like sitting on the throne. And I've been thinking that, I've thought that since Logan's death. Like, I thought like Tom was like meant to serve like as a metaphor of like this is what sacrificing all your moral quandaries in the pursuit of business gets you.
And because the siblings thought you need to be Logan Part 2, and the answer is that you just need to be what the current idea of the CEO is, and that it wasn't Logan. He kind of went the way of the dodo, and
even Logan seemed to kind of know that, because like he would even up until the last hour he wanted out. He was like he renegotiated the deal just because he thought like he could get more money because the kids convinced him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
let's say for a second,
Tom Gang!
We won!
Tom Gang!
I was going into the last episode, I was like, it's either Kendall or we're getting a Tom Gregg clutch. And
it was never going to be Shiv, because that's almost too too hopeful of an ending. It's almost this ending where you can be like, hey, she's put up with all this bullshit her life.
She's tried that's almost every single time, and she's gonna win. No. And good, because she it's not that she doesn't deserve it, it's that she shouldn't get it. It is terrible for her, but she wants it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it's like
it's terrible for all of them.
The only sibling that could realistically have an ending where they win is Kendall, because the ending is not Kendall W. It is Kendall has turned himself into his father, and everything is.
And that's where I thought this was going to end. They do a really good job of setting that up.
Up until the last hour, you're like, is it going to be Kendall or is it going to be Tom?
Because you spend the whole back half of the season, starting with Living Plus, I think.
Yeah.
You spend every Kendall
gets more and more W's without taking that inevitable.
You're
L
waiting for that other shoe to
drop. He takes enough L's that you're not thinking that he's like on a winning streak necessarily.
No. It's a winning streak in the sense that like he keeps winning, which is unusual for Kendall. He usually just keeps losing.
But there's always still a pot.
But there's still like the Mattson, like when they go to visit him and he does the deal thing. There's like the election, which I still kind of classify as a Kendall L.
Well, I think it's a Kendall L because he had to rely on Roman, and he was not in control of the situation.
And in that ending, Roman looks like the one who's like kind of more.
The only person who got a W in the election episode is Roman.
Yeah. The only one who got a W in the election episode was Mencken.
Because at the end of the day, it didn't really.
I would like to say that I would like to talk about that episode specifically because I think that you said Connor's wedding is probably the best written one of the show.
That is the second.
Is America
and
Decides.
Then the finale's the third.
I love the way that America Decides. I've seen people online question like, oh, why did we need the election subplot? Because it wasn't that huge a part of things outside of episode 8.
But it is everything.
Because it perfectly puts it in a position where it's like, Mattson can no longer just comfortably take the company. Mm-hmm. He has to find a way to make Mencken happy with his taking of the company. He needs an all-American everyman. He needs Tom.
Yeah.
Tom does not win without the election.
No.
Yeah.
But even more than that, like, it's perfect. That election, even in microcosm, is perfect for each character because it shows like each character's like Roman is like just trying to be this heartless monster, just like Dad. But
then in episode 9, it
all falls apart.
Yeah.
Kendall is torn between like trying to be a good dad and trying to be like Logan, and then you have Shiv who thinks who's trying to do from her perspective the right thing, and it's just making things worse.
But she actively self-sabotages herself in trying to do the right thing because like I maintain that she probably could have convinced Jimenez to like block the deal if she'd called Nate.
If she actually called?
Yeah, if she actually called Nate. Or at least could have gotten a talk going enough
at the very least, a Democrat would be more likely to block a merger like that than a Republican would.
You'd think, yeah. But I just love how that, like, even if the election plotline was completely, like, not really, even if the election was truly, like, unnecessary for all the other pieces, which it's not, I just think that episode it
gives I think every character, except for maybe, like, Frank and Carl, who aren't involved.
Even though Frank has the best line of the episode. It's when Connor pulls out and he goes, "Connor was running."
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah. All of the old heads are just like sitting back and watching the world burn while this is happening.
There's at least
because they've never really been involved.
The only member of the new guard that wins is Tom.
Yeah. Only one of the only each of the old guards gets a zinger in an episode. Is what I was trying to say. But
Jerry is like nothing but really good.
Jerry stays winning
since after episode 3.
I do lament. I think her role is a little smaller than it feels like it was in 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay, but she was also fired, so it makes sense.
Yeah, and also her Roman plotline gave her a lot to do.
Yeah.
And, people feel one way or the other about that. I like it because it's delightfully weird.
Yeah. Just like their relationship.
But it's not only does the America Decides episode give each character like an important stake, I think it also illustrates so well on a larger picture than just like as a character story. It illustrates so well how their characters' decisions impact the world. The world. That episode illustrates better than any other.
They elected the president.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't Wisconsin. It wasn't Macon. It was
them making decisions.
It was them calling it.
That episode.
They called it. They elected the president of the United States in the Succession universe.
That episode does more than any other episode. That one shows how the how these mega rich in the back rooms having these discussions and making these deals.
It matters.
It matters.
And even no matter how much they try to act like it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like from a message standpoint of like wider societal messages, I feel like that episode really nails something down.
Yeah, it just adds this idea that like
and it's all and like just to speak to like the quality of the acting on display. This is all happening where like characters are just in a conference room talking to each other.
Yeah.
They talk about the riots on the streets, but we don't see them until Roman goes out on them.
On episode 9.
Yeah.
Like
from a action standpoint of this episode, literally nothing happens, even by Succession standards.
And the episode it's not so good. Bigger in scale really than the others. It's still just them in their rooms, like scheming and concocting. But the domino of consequences and the stakes are so clear.
Yeah.
And like we talk about Greg not getting a bunch, but like the one thing he did get, where like him and Jess like both realize the magnitude of what they have been asked to do, and just like are both. Craig is looking for an excuse to like be able to distance himself from it, and Jess is like we're so small, so it doesn't matter if we do it. Like we don't even have to do it. Like it's probably gonna get done by someone else.
Those last couple episodes,
she's trying so hard.
Anything
to
she can do to like
anything she can do to stop
country.
And without even really, neither of them even really say it. Their whole scene is just kind of an awkward mumble, like what they're not saying is bigger than what they're saying.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they recognized
even
how good a character like Jess is.
Yeah, she's
with
a
the
great
last
character.
couple episodes. Like Jess's
She has such a good like arc in those last 3 episodes.
There, yeah. When you brought up Greg, I thought you were going to talk about him walking past the window after betraying Shiv and smirking.
That's a great moment.
That's a great. I saw that I read somewhere that Nicholas Braun came up with that, like improvised that. He was like, I should like react. I should like look at her as I'm walking past the window, and they were like, yeah, do that. Yeah, because the little smile in the shoulder.
Greg is kind of Team Kendall this season.
Well, Greg is Team Greg.
He's always Team Greg, but in terms of like the horses,
he thinks Kendall is the best shot.
He backs Kendall,
which is funny because he's trying to get in sweet with Mattson, but Kendall has nothing to do with Mattson.
Yeah,
I think this season it may not have been Greg's best season, but it's
his most revealing season.
Yeah, it's the one that showed that Greg Greg
truly has become no better than the rest of them.
Something I love, and this comes from like the very end of the show with the confrontation between Shiv and Kendall over like the vote.
Yeah,
is I love that the choice is wrong, but it is correct.
Yeah,
and where it's like what Shiv is doing for her sake will make her life worse. Mm-hmm. Shiv is given 2 paths. One of them is that you basically become your husband's pet. You know, you're like you have no real position in the company. You are Tom Wamsgann's wife, or you get a decent position in the company, but the CEO is Kendall Roy.
And she just can't let that happen.
And I've seen people be like, Shiv was doing a heroic thing. Shiv was trying to stop Logan 2.0.
No.
Shiv was not thinking about that.
No.
Shiv...
I've also seen people say Shiv was doing it for Tom, which every time a cast member has had that idea suggested to them, they're like, I don't think that's what's going on.
It's like Shiv and Sarah Snook spell it out for you.
Yeah.
Love comes in many forms, and sometimes love is hate.
Yeah.
And she loved Kendall so much that she hated him and could not let it be Kendall.
Yeah, it's like they've grown up their whole lives, especially with Kendall, because what he's talking about is like, Kendall was promised a company when he was like 7.
Yeah, and that was a big reveal.
No matter what, Shiv cannot accept a world where she could stop it from being Kendall and not do it. Because at the end of the day, what it comes down to isn't, is Kendall right for it? Is Kendall wrong for it? It comes down to It comes down to the fact that the way they were raised is such that it just can't.
It can't.
Kendall would do the same. Kendall would absolutely do the same.
If the roles were reversed and Shiv was it was Shiv or no one,
Kendall would pick no one.
Kendall would pick no one.
Kendall has done. Season 2's ending proves that Kendall is all for Scorched Earth.
Yeah.
The thing is that like I lost it. We're gonna get back.
The thing is that this show is great.
It's the
I feel like
because it feels like real, and then the little bit of him being like, I'm the eldest boy.
Yeah. Because what happened, what I was trying to say, is Kendall found a way to make it to where it had to be him.
Yeah.
Shiv can't be. It can't be Shiv because it looks weird considering she was backing the Madsen horse.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Can't be Roman because he had a
His
really bad
breakdown
showing at the
in
funeral.
episode 9.
He found a way to make it where the objectively right choice was him.
And they still couldn't do it.
He still fucked it. And I think he could have salvaged it. But that was his make or break moment where it's like, are you actually new Logan? What Logan can do is Logan can put his siblings aside for his greater good, and Kendall just couldn't.
Well, I think it's even more than that. It's an issue of codependency.
Yeah.
Unlike Logan, who was like separated himself from his brother so much that like they're basically mortal enemies now.
Yeah.
Like the Roys have always been codependent on each other, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
And as much as they're both codependent on each other, but they also no one destroys each other more.
Yeah,
than
none of them
themselves.
have the skills on their own, or even
the power on their own.
Yeah, to run it independently, but also they can't do it together because
they can't. I love you, but I can't stand you.
Yeah,
that's like what she says, and it's just like it's so perfect.
Yeah.
It's like the most appropriate way for that to happen, and of course Kendall fucks it because I think he could have salvaged it.
Yeah,
I think he could have found a way to be like, this is what we're going to do. You don't like this isn't even a choice, but instead he breaks down.
Yeah,
he goes, I am the eldest boy.
Yeah,
you know he that is what seals his fate. And also I think if he was a little more, I think his attitude in the meeting.
Yeah,
is also what
he acted like it was already assured.
He's too cocky.
We've got the votes.
And he's too annoying.
And I get why he was.
And he's already kind of lording over his.
Is it Stewie at the beginning of the episode that he's talking to, where he's like, "We've got the votes," and they're like,
though that reminded me of like first season Kendall in like when he was first still CEO.
Oh yeah, we're watching
and, like. He was so egotistical that like the slightest thing.
Oh yeah, I mean that room is so like, are we going into vote? This is vote of no confidence again.
Yeah.
But is it gonna go crash and burn just as poorly this time? And the answer was
yes, but in a different way.
But in a very different way.
And it's heartbreaking, it's depressing, it's anger-inducing, but it's also so right.
Right.
Like it's just like, of course that's how it ends.
And of course, Tom and Greg are the ones who like sweep in after.
I don't think Greg.
You're giving Greg too much. That's true.
Greg's
grabbing onto Tom as Tom goes.
The people who won the episodes were Madsen and Tom.
Yeah.
Jerry, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, Jerry. I feel like Jerry knew no matter who completed the deal, she was getting a big payout.
Greg still has his job.
Yeah.
But Tom holds all the power.
You want to talk about pets? Greg is basically
the
Tom's
sticker. I'm gonna put a sticker on your head, and that's how.
Well, because remember earlier in the episode they were like,
very unprofessional.
Put a sticker on your property.
Yes.
And he puts a sticker on Greg at the end.
Yes, he does.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh my.
This show.
That scene is such a funny scene, but it's so
It's also like very
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very. I say Greg in the sense that I include Greg in a sentence with Tom Greg
because
Greg has like been dragged along with Tom. Greg will continue to call. I love Madsen calling him Judas. It's like okay, so now we know where this is. It was so funny. The two of us were just popping it.
One Piece.
Stop doing that.
One Piece come.
That's gonna make the video more awkward.
Let's go. That's how you mark your where to put the
mark
edits.
The cocks.
I suppose.
But yeah, like to Tom, Tom gives Shiv that out in season 3 of like.
And she's like, I may not love you, but I do love you.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not again. I'm not anti any character. There's many times in this show where I'm Team Shiv and anti Tom. But in that moment, any time that Tom thinks that Shiv trying to reach out to him with love is just a move, or just like, I get it.
Yeah.
Because she
I
told
also-
him that she doesn't
I
love
also
him,
think
and that he is beneath her.
there's another thing to consider, which is in that moment where he thinks she's making a move, he is on cocaine.
Yes.
Oh
he
yeah,
gets cocaine earlier.
he is high
And
as
it's pretty-
fuck,
and
and he is high as fuck and running on no sleep.
To me, it's clear, and this is a good, like, subtle acting thing, is I can tell in his delivery in that scene that he's not, like, saying whatever he thinks strategically will hurt her the most. He is literally just saying his,
He's
like,
literally saying
his,
what
like,
his character
thoughts
would
in
think
that moment.
in that moment.
and it's very clear how, like, so, like, that a move reaction, you can tell is, like, 100% genuine from him.
Yeah.
And not intending to, like, insult her, but genuinely just, like, not being like, is that a move?
Is that a move?
Yeah. Oh.
It's incredible.
You know, we're like
Odds are after the camera stops rolling, what's the over under on Tom dying on the toilet in like 6 to 10
like
months?
Elvis style?
Like Logan style, because he's already running on no sleep, and it seems like it's not so slowly killing him.
No, he'll be fine. It's funny that Waystar's not like a Wandscan's company.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's the puppet, and he knows he's the puppet.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, Tom will be a one. I don't think Tom has any chance of losing that job.
No,
because he will follow Madsen's will to a T.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he will do exactly.
He will
what
move heaven and earth to make whatever Madsen wants happen.
Yeah, and Madsen treats Waystar Royco like a parts shop. That's what he said. Is that he doesn't really care about it as a brand. He just cares about like its assets.
Yeah.
So
and,
he'll reap the rewards and use the assets, but at the end of the day, he'll probably get bored of it and just leave a lot of the goings on to Tom.
At least in the ATN sphere, I'm sure he doesn't care hardly at all.
He's a tech guy. He just wants to like.
He's
a tech guy. He's not American. Like, why would he care about the universe?
He's just trying to make money. You know?
He's literally Elon Musk.
The episode, the Madsen Retreat episode, is so good. I mean, they're all so good.
Yeah.
I think my least favorite episode is probably Living Plus, but it's still like
because like that just feels like a kind of a bottle episode.
In a season of 10 out of 10 episodes, that one might be the only one that maybe I would give a 9.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It really was.
Great.
It's still really good. Yeah.
I'm so glad. We said it when we did our first session talk. That like, if they keep up this level of quality,
it's the best. It'll be the best show. It'll be the best season of all time.
Yeah,
and it was.
They did it.
We don't necessarily have to end here, but I do want to say that every season finale ends with a poem, or with a part like a line from the same poem.
Oh.
And I want to read it to y'all now that the show's over.
Okay.
Because it's got an interesting. It's called Dream Song 29. There sat down once a thing on Henry's heart, so heavy if he had 100 years and more, and weeping, sleepless in all the time, Henry could not make good. Starts again, always in Henry's ear, the little cough somewhere, an odor, a chime. And there is another thing he has in his mind, like a grave seance face 1,000 years, would fail to blur the still profiled reproach of ghastly. With open eyes, he attends, blind. All the bells say, too late, this is not for tears. Thinking, but never did Henry, as thought he did, end anyone and hacks her body up and hide the pieces where they may be found. He knows everyone, and nobody's missing. Often he reckons in the dawn them up. Nobody is ever missing.
That's a really good poem.
It is. It goes hard. But yeah, every season finale takes a line from that poem and uses it, which is nobody's ever missing. This is not for tears. All the bells say, and then finally with open eyes. That's the finale.
Oh, the titles. I thought you were saying like someone quotes that.
Okay. No. The episode names are always derivative.
And I'm like, I don't remember like Tom busting out the Shakespearean sonnet.
No.
That would be so fun. Like that would be such a funny meta episode if this was more. If like this was more in line with like the first season comedy, like when it was like a comedy drama. Of like them doing a we're doing a parody of Shakespeare because this is basically Shakespeare.
Yeah. There's a hole in my heart. No, not heart. That's the overdramatic bullshit.
But
there's a hole in television. which is my heart.
The way
because
the
the
way
very
you
end
said
of the
that's
same.
overdramatic bullshit was so Roman. It was
That's
that's overdramatic
that's overdramatic.
bullshit.
We
Like,
haven't really talked about Roman this.
that's true because I don't know if any of us are like
None of us have been huge.
like
Roman.
you're the big Kendall guy.
We're the Tom guys.
We're the Tom guys, but we don't really have a Roman.
But the thing
I
is,
love
Roman had such a good season.
Yeah.
It's a shame Kieran Culkin is running for Best Actor because he's probably not going to.
actor.
Yeah, Best Lead Actor because he's not going to win it, but he deserves to win something
Uh-huh.
because he was so good.
I was talking, and everyone, my friends were like, "Oh, I think he should win over Jeremy Strong," and I disagree. And listen, I think it's easy to think Kieran Culkin had the better performance. I disagree. I think he had the better writing this season, and that is different. I think Kendall had a great season, but I think Roman's writing. Roman was just given some meaty. Roman was given everything an actor.
He was given.
In
He
terms
was
of
given all
emotions,
the prime
yeah.
notes.
And I was still much more impressed with Jeremy Strong, especially making more of less. Granted, if he wins, I will not be obsessed. And also, Jeremy Strong's already won, and Kieran Culkin is campaigning harder. He's he's doing talk shows and podcasts, and
I've seen him. I've seen him a ton.
He should.
He wants the
some of
Emmy.
those.
He was that scene of him on the mountaintop,
And the scene of him at the funeral too.
and that whole funeral episode, and then that last, his interactions with Kendall in the last episode, were the scene where Kendall cuts open his head.
Oh my god!
Oh my
When
god!
he hugs him and breaks the stitches.
That being said, regarding Emmys, if Jeremy Strong, Kieran Culkin, and somehow Brian Cox are all in the category in a very succession way, they're all gonna fuck each other.
Yeah.
And no one will win.
Barry.
No, that's not gonna be. It's a
Bob Odenkirk!
Let's
If we'd been doing talks on shows a year ago, it would have been Better Call Saul that we were talking about. Because you and I were so
Big
Better Call Saul pilled a year ago, and now
I would
Succession.
not be upset if Bob Odenkirk won. He had a great season, and it's insane he never won.
I think
that
it's
whole
insane.
show's
I think
never
it's insane that it's the way that because of the way broadcast that it's still nominated because it's been a full year and a half.
That is something that works
It's
against
this
that
weird,
show.
And it's at the end of the day, the Emmys don't care, but and they don't matter. But I think
They don't matter.
They
don't matter.
They don't matter. They don't matter. He's just a little dirty. Don't just ignore it. He's trying to look at the dirt now.
No, I was trying to kiss her.
I think the Emmys Better Call Saul were always this show's really good, but we just had Breaking Bad and we stuck to that show off its whole time. We'll wait until this show's later seasons and then reward it. And then Succession came out. I think if Succession wasn't a thing, Better Call Saul would have had a better
Closing.
thoughts.
We got
So
distracted talking
Chopper
about
pulls
Emmys.
out his cock.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my God.
how big is Chopper's dick in comparison to Luffy's?
Chopper's doctorate.
Yayo.
So let's give our closing
Let's all give
thoughts.
closing thoughts and then conclude. We'll go individually and then you conclude it with underlined or
Crossed out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go. I think Succession is the best television show ever made. I think it is the best written thing I've ever seen. Its only rival might be, I think the play Angels in America is another equally well-written thing. But regardless, I think this is the finest of fine seasons of television. And the fact that we're going 4 for 4.
Mm-hmm.
Just 4 excellent seasons.
Peaks.
The most interesting layered cast of all time. And the best acted show I think money can buy. I'm so widely impressed. That being said, underlined, obviously.
Final thoughts. Cock piece.
Oh, did my bit not even record?
Probably
for the best.
I don't know. Maybe your bit did. I think it did. But
Who cares?
I'm just gonna give my
Give your thoughts.
Well, I feel like he basically gave them best acting, best writing, best directing. So good that my camera ran out of battery and we're struggling to talk about it. Kirk?
When we started this show, Coleman, 2 years ago-ish?
Yeah.
I did not think that we would turn this into our friend group's new biggest obsession.
It took a while to get them into it.
And also that it would be the greatest show ever made on television.
I didn't think so either. I mean, we loved it from the beginning.
We loved it from the beginning because we were Matthew McFadden simps and we wanted to see him in something good.
And as a Matthew McFadden simp, I'm so happy that
the
winner of the best show.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I can't wait for them to hand deliver Matthew McFadden his Emmy for his
Emmy number 2.
His participation in the greatest show ever recorded in television history.
When in the finale did y'all start cheering?
As soon as Shiv started choking.
So funny.
Choking.
Meanwhile, I'm watching it going like, no!
Yeah. Well, no, because I in particular...
Because I was convinced, like, I was convinced
It was
like
Jover.
I was convinced it was Jover, like, as soon as Kendall rallied the troops.
Yeah.
I in particular had a moment when Tom tells Shiv it's gonna be me, and she's like, you're an empty suit. That was from that moment on, I was like, fuck all them kids. Tom.
Fuck
And then it
kids.
actually happened, and I was
So funny. My weakness is the
feel
three
like-
siblings getting along.
I feel like we somehow willed this into
we
being.
manifested this to give us content.
Let's go. By the way, I will say underlined, but I think more importantly, it doesn't matter as much as the impression of it.
Of
matters.
what Kendall got from it.
and like, we'll never know.
And we'll never know.
Just like we'll never know if I can record a FEARcast without having to awkwardly mess with the camera.
Fear.
I guess we will when I do it. Or don't.
Fear. We move.